Good evening. I'm so excited to be doing this with you guys tonight. So, welcome to the Empower Your Hormones Masterclass. This is something that is near and dear to my heart because I have been in perimenopause since I was 36 years of age. That's what my doctor told me. I am now just about 48 and have weathered a bit of a storm. So, I am super excited to just really teach women the information they need to take control of their life. And now, having three teenage daughters at home, I am even more psyched up to really embrace this knowledge and to make changes within our household to really let every woman in my home live their best life. That's what I'm all about. Now, for those of you that maybe aren't familiar with who I am in the group, my name is Becky Crime. So I have been in the wellness industry, in the fitness industry in particular, for just over 20 years. I'm sitting inside of my Pilates studio here in Cochrane, Alberta, Farm Girl Pilates. And I'm really kind of look at myself as an advocate for women's health. I'm really all about teaching women how to just make very simple lifestyle changes to live their optimal wellness. Okay. So tonight in particular, we are going to talk about empowering our hormones. So let me just bring up some slides here for us. And we're going to jump into the information. So what are we going to cover tonight? Well, we're going to cover a few things. We're going to talk about what are the main hormones involved in women's health, kind of the key players. Look at some of the other hormones that come into play. I mean, we could be here for hours, so we're just going to give a little brief touch point on some of those things. Talk about what hormone imbalance looks like. I'm sure a lot of you know what that does look like. And then we're going to look at addressing and using the pillars of health to support our hormones. So how we can empower our own health. And what are those things? Well, we need to eat well, we need to sleep well, we need to move well, we need to think well. And then I'm going to touch on a couple of other lifestyle strategies that maybe don't really fit nicely into those pillars, so to speak, of just how you can kind of move forward with this. So what I would like you to do, first off, before we jump into the material, if you don't already have a piece of paper and a pen beside you, I want you to do that because I'd like you to be taking some notes. The research says if we don't write things down as we're learning it, we retain less than 5% of that information. Now, this will be in the group later, so you can always come back and watch the replay. But I'd love you to write down the keynotes that interest you, like what uniquely what material are we going to cover that's going to be unique to your body, because we are all unique individuals. And I'm also going to be creating, when we get to the very end, the very last thing we're going to do is create an action plan for you. It's what you specifically are going to do, because there's lots of things we could do, and we're not going to implement all 77 ideas at once, right? We're going to just think step by step. So grab that paper and pen. I'm just going to have a sip of water while you do that. And then we are going to get started. Okay, so first of all, what are hormones? Hormones have such a bad rap, right? But they're really just the messengers in our body. They communicate with our different body systems. And, when they communicate well, things work synergistically and we have harmony in our body. But, just stress, just life in general, whether you're 14, 44, or 84, we have things that happen in our life, in our society, that create stress and that just create a little imbalance, right? And so oftentimes that messenger system gets messed up and we get out of balance. So I want you to look at this list, and I want you to ask yourself, which of these symptoms do you currently suffer from, or have you suffered from? So I'm going to give you a second to look through those. I should have my reading glasses on because that's almost too small. If you need reading glasses, go and grab those right now. But I want to know your number. So in the comments, I want you to drop your number. So what are we looking at? For every one of these that you say yes to, you're going to count that as one. So we've got hot flashes, cold flashes, night sweats, a clammy feeling, heart palpitations, irritability, mood swings, trouble sleeping, irregular periods, a low sex drive, a dry vagina, fatigue, anxiety, depression, lack of focus, poor concentration, faulty memory, incontinence, itchy or crawly skin, achy joints and muscles, tense muscles, sore breasts, headaches, digestive issues, bloating, allergies have maybe worsened, weight gain, hair loss or thinning, more facial hair. Isn't that fun? I have this little one that comes into my chin now and then. Dizziness, vertigo, changed body odor, electric shock feelings, tingling extremities, bleeding gums, burning tongue, roof of mouth, chronic bad breath, osteoporosis, weakened fingernails, and ringing in the ears. So that's a lot of things. There's 40. I think when I did the math on this, I have experienced at one time or another during this journey upwards of 30 of these symptoms. It might have even been a little bit more. So I'd love to know, taking a look at that list, drop that in the comments. How many of these symptoms have you experienced, either now or in the past? And also, what one bothers you the most? For me, it was the waking up at night hot that was really kind of the most irritable. So we all have kind of our hormone number as to maybe what's happening, what's going wrong in our body. So let's start by looking at the key sex hormones that are unique to females. So there's actually three of them. There's estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. And these are the key ones when we look at perimenopause, menopause. When my daughters are just starting into their menstrual cycles and starting into the childbearing years, these are the key players, okay? And let's kind of take a quick look at each of them. You're welcome to read through the slide and get more information after. But estrogen, right? We know that's the main key player, and it has over 400 different functions in the body. Some of the things we know that it does, obviously, that is what actually promotes the development and maintenance of the female sexual characteristics, right? So as young girls are going through puberty, their estrogen levels are increasing as they grow breasts, those sorts of things, right? It is also what's responsible for regulating the menstrual cycle and the reproductive cycle. And the main estrogen factory in the body is, in fact, the ovaries. The adrenal glands produce some in smaller amounts, and fat tissues also make estrogen. So it's really the key player. But of course, what happens during perimenopause is that those estrogen levels, like all of the hormones, go really up and down. And there's this roller coaster that can really leave us feeling like we have a whole bunch of symptoms, right? Sometimes you might even feel just a little bit crazy. So what does low estrogen levels look like? Now, if you look at the graphic, you can see it starts at age 20 and goes to 80. The dark pink indicates, when we have the highest levels of estrogen in our body. And you can see they start at puberty, they build up, and then especially after 40, they start to go down. And you can see once we get into those menopause years, it's very, very low. And a lot of the symptoms that are associated with that are on this slide. So you can take a look at that. What's interesting as you go through these symptoms in the other slides is that some of the symptoms overlap, whether it's low estrogen or low progesterone or maybe too much estrogen. The symptoms are actually often overlapping. And that's where it can be useful if you're really struggling, that you might want to reach out to your doctor, or I'm a big fan of naturopaths, and just have them run that blood panel and say, like, where are my hormones sitting? And what I love about the naturopath route is they're not just going to say you're fine, you're within the normal range. They're going to say, oh yeah, okay, you're maybe in normal, but we're a little lower here, a little higher here. And they can really give you a specific plan as to what your unique body needs. So let me know. I mean, I have a few of these symptoms for sure. And again, you'll probably notice that, if you're still cycling, you're going to see that these change throughout the consistency of that month, right? So let me know, how many of these do you feel you experience on, within a cycle, within a 28-day period? Now, we have estrogen. We also have progesterone, and these two kind of work. They're supposed to kind of balance each other, right? And when that balance gets out of whack, of course, again, we have issues, right? Now, progesterone is actually made by the ovaries and adrenal glands again, so very similar to estrogen there. And it really spikes around the time of ovulation, along with that testosterone. And that's where you get that real big boost in your libido. There's a reason, science, we ovulate, progesterone grows up, our libido goes up, our body wants us to procreate, right? It's really kind of cool how it all works. But it's also considered a calming hormone. So again, ovulation, progesterone is up. We're nicer to be around, right? That is biologically designed. It's a beautiful thing. So we typically, have a lot of progesterone in pregnancy, and that's where most women feel their best in that third trimester when it's really high, right? So it's really fascinating to see how the hormones, if you dig right into it, I won't bore you with all the details, but if you look at how that starts in puberty and then what it does in pregnancy. So if you don't know, I'm still a certified doula, haven't been to births in quite a few years, but back in the day, in part of my fitness training, I was certified as a doula and as a yoga for fertility instructor because I had my own challenges with fertility. So hence why I'm so interested in hormones and have spent so much time in my life reading up about them. And literally we could spend hours here, but we just want to give you a quick overview. So what does low progesterone look like? Well, interesting, some of these symptoms were on the other slide, right? So take a quick look through this. We see depression, mood swings, tender breast, increased PMS, hot flashes. Of these, how many of these do you feel like you're experiencing right now? Do you think that maybe that's an issue for you, right? Okay. And then we have this other thing called estrogen dominance. So remember how I told you we try to want to balance out the estrogen and progesterone? When those become imbalanced, we can end up with estrogen dominance. So this is specifically when there's more estrogen than progesterone. And even as we approach menopause, so we know our estrogen levels are decreasing, but even as we approach menopause, that balance can fall out of whack and we can have a whole nother array of symptoms. Again, quite similar. What's interesting about this is that a lot of factors in our North American lifestyle contribute to estrogen dominance. So obesity, having too much weight on your body is going to contribute to that. Synthetic hormones. So actually, synthetic hormone replacement therapy, that is going to kind of put things out of balance, maybe to balance it. It has its place, but it's something to be considerate of for sure. Chronic stress. And I mean, so many people just live in exhaustion mode all the time. So chronic stress, poor diet. So if we're putting a lot of processed foods into our body, toxins, so chemicals in our foods, if you're using really cheap skincare, right, that's full of toxins, or even the household cleaners in your house, those things can all be endocrine disruptors, right? They disrupt your endocrine system, they play havoc with your hormones, and it can end up with this estrogen dominance. Again, poor gut health here, alcohol abuse, toxin exposure, I said that, and then hormone disruptors. So all of these things are things to consider. And this is actually quite common. Now, there's a little graphic there you can take a look at. But if we go to this next slide, again, here's the symptoms of estrogen dominance. And you're like, I don't know, these are the same symptoms as progesterone levels that are too low or estrogen levels that are too low. There's definitely overlap in all of these things. And that's where I love going to that, to a naturopath and getting that panel ran. So you actually know what you're dealing with. Okay. So of estrogen dominance, drop in the comments, how many of these things have you experienced? And I have experienced all of these in my life at some point. Okay. The last kind of sex hormone per se is testosterone, which we typically think of men, right? It's like the raw, go out, get tough kind of hormone. But we also have that as women. And it is considered the masculine hormone, right? Now, it says here, however, both men and women have estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone in their bodies, but just in differing quantities, okay? Testosterone is associated with our sex drive. It is produced by the ovaries, and again, those adrenal glands. So you've probably heard about adrenal fatigue before, right? That's a real thing, and it's tied into our hormones. So let's switch to the next one here and take a look at this slide. So this is showing symptoms of low testosterone levels. And you can see here for sure, it's definitely tied into sex drive. So low libido, vaginal dryness, difficulty reaching orgasm, fatigue, loss of bone density. All of these things can indicate that there are low testosterone levels, okay? So other hormones to talk about. And I have some detailed slides. I'm going to try to go through them kind of quick, but other hormones to talk about are cortisol, the stress hormone, the thyroid hormone, and insulin, because the reality is there's never one thing. And that's really, really important to know as we talk about the pillars of health. Let's maybe talk more about the circle of health. Every factor in our body is connected to another thing. So we make one decision here, it's going to affect something over here. We eat bad, it's going to affect this. We don't sleep well, it's going to affect this. And they're all interwoven. And that's kind of the beauty of it, because we can make one small positive change just maybe to our nutrition. And that will have a ripple effect through the rest of our well-being and our health. But I love this little graphic here. It says, can I read this? Oh my goodness. A hormone is a chemical released within an organism which affects, oh my goodness, I can't read, which affects cells in another part of the organism. I need reading glasses, but it's so true. So something happens in one part of the body, right? These hormones, but they have this effect on every single part of your body. And again, that's why when we take control, so we're going to talk about all the problems here first, and then we're going to look at, it's really quite easy. It's really quite easy to get things back under control, unless there's some, big underlying medical issue. Okay, so let's talk about cortisol. What is cortisol? It is that darn stress hormone, right? And a lot of us are well acquainted with cortisol, and they really cause, not they, it causes really, it causes trouble just on a day-to-day basis, but if you have chronic stress over a long period of time, it can really lead to some big troubles, okay? What you're gonna see is that it's gonna deplete the brain chemicals like serotonin. It's gonna interfere with sleep. Who's experienced that? Drop the word sleep in the comments if you're like, yeah, I can't sleep when I'm stressed, right? They're so interconnected. Again, small changes in one area, we can make big improvements, right? Also, cortisol causes us to store fat. So quick little story here. You guys know 2021 was a bit of a rough year for our family. I was recovering from the virus, right? And took 8 months to rebuild my lung capacity. But then my daughter had long COVID and was super sick. And so I was still, I was kind of trying to do the things. I was doing my Pilates, doing some exercise, but even eating fairly decent. But I was under so much stress. My cortisol levels were so high that I just kept putting on weight. It was like, that feeling where I looked at that donut and it attached itself to, the muffin top. That's often because of cortisol. Okay. So we have to address this because it's a very big problem in perimenopause. Why? Because this chapter of life for most women is one of the most stressful, especially those of us that had children later in life. We've got these kids at home, we've got aging parents, we've got careers, we're thinking about retirement, you layer on all those things. It's a lot on your plate. So I always say, give yourself some grace. I was working with a business coach this year, and that was the best piece of advice she gave me, because I was so always saying to myself, I'm not good enough, I'm not doing enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not doing enough. And she's like, Becky, would you give yourself some grace? Your kids are these teenagers. It is the busiest chapter. I'm a taxi driver back and forth all the time. Sip of water, sorry. And there's a lot on your plate. She's like, give yourself some grace. And when you do that simple thing, in fact, I want you to write that down as the number one thing on your action plan. I'm adding this in. I should get back to my notes, but add this in. Give myself grace. Write that down, okay? Because that's going to go a long way in having you really just take control of your health, your wellness, and your hormones, okay? Cortisol, of course, is also linked to depression and sugar cravings. And it actually breaks down protein in the body. So if you're under a lot of stress and you're trying to bulk up at the gym and you're like, I just keep going to the gym and I'm not having any results. Either I'm not losing weight or I can't put muscle on. Chances are your cortisol levels could be higher than you would like them. So something to consider, right? And that actually can lead to osteoporosis, a loss of bone density. We lose that muscle mass, right? And then of course, over time, there's just bigger risks for, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, heart disease, things that are definitely, need to be on our radar over 50 once we get there. And then cortisol also suppresses your immune system. So I don't know if you've ever noticed that, but if you're under a lot of pressure, you're super stressed, oftentimes you're like, I've got a cold, you'll get sick. So it's something to really consider. It's not just the sex hormones that we have to consider when we're looking at making lifestyle changes. Thyroid hormone is a big one, right? And the thyroid is part of your endocrine system. It regulates your metabolic rate. And it really has a significant effect literally on the function of every single organ in your body. It's crazy, right? So you can have hyper or hypothyroidism, right? So we either have too much thyroid hormone or not enough thyroid hormone. And this was actually shocking to me. I got this stat from a doctor. I should mention that all of these slides are actually part of a program I was involved in that I have permission to teach moving forward, but they're actually from a medical doctor. So 26% of women in or near perimenopause will have some sort of a thyroid issue. So this is again where if you're really struggling, if you really can't balance things out, getting that blood panel done is so valuable. So speak to your doctor because you want to rule out anything, more significant, right? So what does a sluggish thyroid look like? You're tired all the time, you're gaining weight, you're losing your hair, depressed, can't go to the bathroom, dry skin, so many other problems. So if that, if there's an inkling that that might be something that's happening to you, I can't stress enough, you need to go and talk to your medical doctor, okay? And then insulin. So what is insulin? Well, we can't really talk about insulin without talking about blood sugars, okay? So what happens with blood sugars? So insulin is really what's responsible for keeping our blood sugars level. And what we would like to do, like our blood sugars go up and down throughout the day in response to when we eat food and such, but we would like those levels to be fluctuating sort of level like so, right? The problem comes when we have these really big spikes in our blood sugar. So it goes really high, then it goes really low, and we repeat that cycle. And that's where we get into trouble. But basically how it works, right, as it says, I'm not going to read all of these, but we get hungry. So it could be because it's just time to eat. It could be a habit, or maybe our blood sugars they're getting low. So we go and eat. Now, if we eat a really good, well-balanced snack or meal that has, balanced the macronutrients, we're probably going to be okay because we're going to eat that. We're going to have that little spike of blood sugar. The insulin's going to come in and they're just going to kind of this nice gentle wave. They're going to ride itself out. The problem is with so many of us, and this is where I was actually just last fall, I would go for sometimes 4, 5, 6 hours without eating. And I'd be so hungry. So by the time I'm like, oh, I need a snack. So what would I go for? Because I'm hungry, I'm starving. I wouldn't go make something. I would go to the pantry and I would eat something that was a simple carbohydrate or a sugar. And I would just fill my face with it, right? So what happens, this blood sugar spikes up really fast. The insulin spikes up really fast. And now I get into it. If I spike fast, I'm going to drop fast, right? And I get into this up and down issue with my blood sugars. So the problem, insulin is fine as long as again, we're not talking like diabetic, that's something else altogether, but just for those of us that are healthy, insulin is a hormone we all have, we use it every day, and it's not an issue as long as we can maintain our blood sugars. What becomes a problem again is if we're having these big spikes and these big drops. And then what happens is the body goes into a stress response, right? And an inflammatory response. And now through my Pillars of Wellness questionnaire, many of you guys have filled that out. A lot of people said, I have inflammation in my body. I feel inflamed. This is something to consider. And what's interesting is that anytime I eat sugar, not even a lot of it, a little bit, I can feel I'm inflamed. And so that would be a perfect example of where I'm just not feeding myself the right nutrients and we're getting insulin involved. I literally can eat a teaspoon of sugar and I feel like it goes immediately to my belly. Like it's something I really need to consider. So that sort of insulin, talk more about it than I was going to. I will say this as well. It is also a fat storage hormone. So once the body has used all of the sugar, so you eat, right? And there is a glucose. Glucose is natural sugar in most food, and that's okay. We just don't want to have added sugar, but I'm digressing again. Okay, so we eat and our body has this sugar going through the bloodstream. So our body uses what it needs at that time. The problem is when there's more sugar than our body needs, right? And so then that excess is stored. So first it stores into the liver and the muscles as glycogen. That's good. And then after that, once those stores are filled up, it's like, oh, now I'm just going to go sit in your belly, right? I'm going to become stomach fat. That's what tends to happen to me. And so it's really one of the most important things you can do is to balance your blood sugars to reduce just that stress that's happening. Because if our body is stressed, it's going to affect all the systems and all of the other hormones. And we're only talking about 6 of them today, right? So one of the key things I want you to write down here as far as this for your action plan is number 1, when you get up in the morning, you want to break your fast, eat breakfast, break your fast within an hour of eating. And then I set alarms and I eat every 3 to 4 hours. I don't eat sooner than 3 hours. So there's no stacking, but I also don't let myself go more than 4 hours without eating. And then by 6:30, I don't eat again. That's it. There's no more eating until the morning because your body needs that period of time to just rest. Okay. We don't want to be digesting food all night. So, okay, I'm digressing a little bit there. You know, this happens. I said it was going to be an hour. I hope it is. We might actually get there because we're already here. So, we've talked about sort of what are these hormones, right? We've got our 3 sex hormones. And then we have insulin, we have cortisol, we have our thyroid to consider, okay? So if there aren't any underlying conditions, if you've talked to your doctor, everything's good, they're like, yeah, it's just perimenopause, it just is what it is sort of thing, then it's time for you to take control, right? And it's simpler than you think. So you grab, let's say a magazine, we don't even read magazines anymore. So you're scrolling the internet and there's 77 articles and one's like, you should do keto, you should do this, you should do that, balance your hormones by eating grapefruits, balance your hormones by eating lamb, whatever they are. There's so many things out there. And here's the thing, they probably all work, but why stress yourself out? What if you just take all of that nonsense and just go, no, this is simple. I'm actually a pretty simple organism to look after, and I'm going to use these pillars of wellness, pillars of health to look after myself. And so what are these? Again, so we are going to eat well, we're going to sleep well, we're going to move well, and we're going to think well. And they are all interrelated, okay? So let's talk about food first, okay? Now, in your notes, I want you to write down the word food. Eat well. Eat well. And I want you to write down the word nutrients, because the thing is, in our society, food, it's awesome, right? We go to a party and there's cake and we celebrate, and food is a social event. But the reality is food is nutrients. Food is how our body functions. Food is fuel, okay? So we need to start thinking about food differently. And this is hard. This is really hard. Like, let's not sugarcoat this, right? This takes a mindset shift to really get yourself around, because if you're wanting to really make changes, but you're going out, and eating at a restaurant 6 nights a week, it's going to be super hard. So you have to make these changes. Okay. So there's so many things that we could do for this, but let's look at these. There's 5 key things under eat well, okay? First thing I want you to do is I want you to choose complex carbs over simple carbs. So what does that mean, okay? Well, that's basically, again, based on the glycemic index. How quickly, when you eat food, how quickly that sugar hits the bloodstream and affects you, basically, okay? So if you had to choose between eating vegetables and fruit, vegetables are going to be a better option. They're a complex carb, whereas fruits are a simple carb. The sugars in a simple carb come into the system quicker. If you're looking at your grains, right? So a potato, a sweet potato is probably a better option than a potato, but a sweet potato, rice, or pasta, those would be considered simple carbs. They're going to hit your blood sugar quickly. And again, one of the key things we're looking to do is balance those blood sugars. Whereas if you were to choose something like quinoa, a whole grain, that might be a better option for you, okay? And that's, again, just going to help you to really eliminate those spikes. Fiber. Do you eat enough fiber? Again, in the Pillars of Wellness questionnaire, and if you haven't done it, if you want actually a specific plan that I designed for you, just within the Shine group, in the featured pins, is the Pillars of Wellness questionnaire. So you can fill that out and I will send you back a custom recommendation as to where you need to make improvements. But fiber, we don't eat enough of it. We don't poop enough. We do not. And I'm going to tell you, when you're actually going to the bathroom and being regular and not overeating, you have an empty stomach and you're feeling, and it feels really good. It feels super, super healthy. And I hadn't felt it like in 2 years until this January when I started on the Best Me program. And it's such a good feeling. I feel lighter. And because I'm not constantly having food in my stomach and constantly trying to digest and work this food through, my body is clearer. My brain fog, all of those things have reduced. Like, it's miraculous how it all works together. Okay, so add fiber. So think again, fruits, vegetables. Here's where you know what? Supplement with fiber. There's nothing wrong with that, okay? That's going to really help create healthy cholesterol levels as well. And of course, you want to have fat. I am not a fan of the stuff that's like no fat. And then, what happens is you read a label, it's like 0 fat, but then you look at the sugars. Well, they took out the fat and replaced it with sugar. So learn to read your labels. You want healthy fat. So you want to choose olive oil. You want to choose an avocado. There's just good natural fats in nuts. It's a really great way. Now, fats are important because they fuel your brain, right? That brain health part, your omega-3s, you want to maybe supplement with omega-3s as well. And then you want to identify and you fill nutritional gaps because again, the reality is, I try hard, but life is busy. And if I'm picking up a kid at 4 and then at the dance studio and I can't get home till 6, there are days where I have the cooler with me and I pack the food, but there are days that we go through the drive-through. We're hitting McDonald's, we're really not making great food choices. And that's when supplements can really be your friend. They're going to come in and they're going to fill the nutritional gaps. Now, I really recommend phytonutrients because that's what a lot of us are missing. Even if we're eating fruits and vegetables, our soil is depleted of those natural nutrients because we're in an over farming situation. It's just the reality. There's too many people on the earth. So phytonutrients are something I would highly recommend that you add into your diet. Okay. So take a note, drop down below. What do you think you need? Do you eat enough fiber? Do you eat enough vegetables? Would love to know in the comments what you're thinking about that. And then protein. Okay. Protein, protein, protein. Can you please write that in big, bold letters? Okay. Now, I am not vegan. It's hard. If you're a vegan, it's really, really hard to get enough protein. And we're just going to leave that for another day. we can talk about that. There is a really great cookbook, the Oshi Glows cookbooks that are vegan that have some great options. So that's something to consider. But why do you need protein? Okay. So again, when you have a meal that has a complex carbohydrate, a protein, and a healthy fat all together, right? That's going to set your blood sugars up for success. So your insulin levels aren't going to be affected, right? That's key. Now, protein, when we eat it, it breaks down into amino acids, and those are used for numerous body functions, including hormone function, okay? So again, everything's so interrelated. Those amino acids are stored in our muscles. And so when we're eating protein with every meal, we're maintaining those stores. So if we're not eating enough protein, we're not getting enough amino acids, then when our body needs those, it's going to go into our muscles and it's going to break down our muscles to get what it needs. And this is a big problem over 45. And actually at the age of 25, you start losing muscle mass every year, but it really, really accelerates over 45 and continues to accelerate every year thereafter. So you need to eat protein. In fact, write this down. I'm guessing some of you only eat this in a day, but you need to eat 30 to 40 grams of protein per meal. This is much higher than the RDA amounts, right? The RDA amounts are completely outdated. There's been lots of new research that's come out that's saying that's not adequate. So if you are a woman over 40, I need you eating 30 to 40 grams of protein per meal. So how do you do that? We cook up chicken breasts tonight, actually is going to be our meal prep night. We're going to cook up a giant thing of chicken breasts. You can get, you can get protein in nuts, in peanut butter. There's also fat in those as well. My favorite is the Greek yogurt. Actually, the 0% fat Greek yogurt is super high in protein. So there's lots of easy ways to add it in. But we need healthy muscles because healthy muscles protect our bones. They are our support system. They help to cushion those bones. And we know that as we age, osteoporosis is a risk, okay? So now, we have been eating well, and I spent a little more time there than I'm going to on the other ones because honestly, nutrition is the most important out of, no, it's not. They're also important, but if there's one thing, I think the one thing that most people need to improve, it's our nutrition, okay? But then we're going to talk about moving, exercise, moving well. And it was when I saw this stat that I hesitated. I was like, no, nutrition isn't the most important because of this. Did you know that 90% of the stimulation and nutrition to your brain is generated by movement to your spine? So you have to move. What happens when we sit on the couch for 3 days straight and watch TV? Well, we're achy, we're tired, we don't think clearly, we're a little bit depressed, right? You get up, you take a big stretch, you yawn. There it is. I already feel better. You go for a walk, you get mental clarity, right? You get on the yoga mat, you move around, you're like, oh man, I feel good. You've fed your body with good movement. Now, I have created a PDF guide, Fit Over 40 Fitness Guide. Now, if that would interest you, if you'd like to get that into your hands, I think it's maybe a 4 or 5 page booklet, just write the word fitness guide in the comments and I can get that over to you because movement, of course, is truly my specialty and we really want to move well. So notice I didn't say exercise because yes, we need to exercise, but more importantly, we need to move well. So I would rather someone took up, or put it this way, there's more value in living an active lifestyle by going for a walk, doing some gardening, you know, lifting your lawn chairs across the yard, like functional living that involves moving. There's more value in that than there is in sitting at your desk for 45 hours plus a week and then doing one workout a week. It just doesn't offset it, right? So you need to do daily movement. Okay. Now it doesn't have to be crazy. Like, what do you love to do? And that's one of the key things that's on this slide is like, what do you love to do? What do you enjoy? That's what I want you to write down. Okay. So we've got the action plan. We talked about, we're eating every 3 to 4 hours, right? We are taking those points I said about nutrition and what did you need to do? I hope you wrote that down. So now here, I want you to write down what you enjoy doing. What have you done in the past? Was it a yoga class? Was it swimming? Was it Zumba? Is it rock climbing? Is it a spin class? What is it? Because if you don't love it, it's going to be really hard to get there, right? Okay. But we want to exercise to increase muscle mass, to boost our metabolism, and to decrease stress. So again, you can see that there are going to be so many implications on our hormones, right? If we're moving well and we're decreasing our cortisol levels, that's having an impact on our hormones, right? And now this first stat on here is crazy. It says women who exercise regularly can look forward on average to 20 more years of productive living than those that don't exercise. Well, I tell you, I'm going to be in the gym until the day I can't be because I want to keep moving and keep active. Now, regular exercise, of course, it decreases our insulin resistance. So you want increases our insulin resistance. Sorry about that. Which helps our body burn carbohydrates more efficiently, making fat storage much less likely. Okay, so we don't want to have those big spikes that are going in insulin, insulin up and down, insulin down, insulin up, insulin down. So exercise can actually help with that. It helps to balance that, right? It keeps you in that level spot. Now, really strongly suggest, again, if you're over 20, actually at birth, your HA levels start going down. That's hyaluronic acid. That's a synovial fluid around your joints. Collagen after 25 starts going down. But then again, you hit 40, and there's a reason it's hard to age people up to about 40. And then after 40, you're like, oh yeah, they're over 40. It's because collagen HA production just really drops off. That is so important to the health of your connective tissue. And if we're talking about women's health, sorry if this makes you uncomfortable, but there's connective tissue in the vaginal wall. So if you're, feeling like you're not enjoying things as much as you used to, again, you need to be doing some squats, right? You need to be doing your Kegels, you need to be doing some deep breath work, you need to do the core work, and then add in that collagen supplement. It is really going to make a difference, okay? Now I have a shirt, if you guys have been following the March Madness, it says breathe, activate, control, because I'm not a big fan of, I go to the gym and people are just like, and they're groaning and they're not really paying attention, or, I don't mind music in, but they're not paying attention to their body. You can do 5 really good push-ups using breath, activation, and control and get the same results as doing 55 really badly. Because if we're not doing exercise well, we're using the wrong muscles, we're creating tension, we're creating stress, we don't feel good. Okay. So become fascinated with how movement feels in your body. And don't worry if it's right or wrong. Be like, if you're standing and doing a squat, what if I put weight on my little toe? What if I put weight on my heel? What if I put weight on my big toe? What feels better? Learn to trust your intuition there. Okay. And then this is so key, you guys. I need you to strength train 3 times a week. You don't need to go to the gym. You can use your body, push-ups, squats. You can use bands, right? Grab a bag of flour, grab a kid, do some squats, holding them, whatever it might be, right? And then also incorporate either yoga or Pilates 1 to 3 times a week. Because if you are just strength training that's based on concentric muscle contractions, a shortening of muscles, whereas yoga and Pilates helps you balance out both the eccentric and concentric contractions of your muscles, which just really means healthy connective tissue again, right? So it's why I call collagen Pilates in a bottle because it's just so great for that. Okay, then we have to sleep. Now, this is crazy, you guys, because it is the most important pillar to balance out of all of, because it affects all of our systems, right? But it's also the most challenging, right? This is, I would say, so far of the people that have submitted their Pillars of Wellness questionnaire, 99% have said there was an issue with sleep, okay? And then what happens when we're tired? Well, we gain weight, we don't think well, we're anxious, we get depressed, our stress levels go up, right? So sleep is the key. So what can you do here? Let me know in the comments, how many hours of sleep do you get a night? Are you sleeping for 5? Are you sleeping for 10? And what's your biggest issue? Let me know that. Is it that you can't fall asleep, or you can't stay asleep, or you wake up too early in the morning, right? And so you've heard some of these things before. You want to keep your room cool, keep it dark, choose pajamas that allow you to breathe, right? Maybe you need to sleep naked. Create an evening routine, because a lot of us are just go, 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 go. Oh my gosh, I got to go to bed. And then we lay there, but our heads are still going. So really set at least an hour aside. If you know you want to be in bed at 10:30, set an alarm for 9:30, okay? And then create a routine. So I still struggle with this. I got to be honest. This is probably the one I need to work on the most. But when my alarm goes off, what I'm supposed to do, okay, head to my room, put my pajamas on, wash my face, go through my skincare routine, brush and floss, right? Put some soft music on, no electronics for that hour, right? Put some like the soft music on, create just a soothing atmosphere. I turn off the big bedroom light, have just the lamp on. I might read a little bit then, because that's something that I find relaxing, right? Go in, tuck the kids in, trying to get them on a bedtime routine as well, right? It's hard, but that's something I really would recommend. And then this is something where supplements have made a really big difference in my life. So I was using Sleep Health, which is a combination of melatonin and L-GABA, which is really great. But what I found was I wasn't having a hard time falling asleep. The bigger issue for me was the night waking, because I was so hot. And so there's a supplement you can drink called Nani, and that made a big difference. So I have it in my fridge all the time. And if I do wake up hot, as I don't always know when it's going to hit, it tends to be around ovulation, but again, it's a little bit sporadic. So if I wake up one night and I'm hot, I'll actually just go and take a shot of it. I think it's 30 milliliters I take. And then for sure, the next 2 or 3 nights in a row, I'll take that Nani, and it'll really make a difference. Magnesium can help. And then the one we're going to talk a little bit about that later is Ova-M. It's a brand new supplement, never done before. I'm on month 2, completely shocked. I am now sleeping like a log, 8 to 9 hours a night, not waking up to go pee, which is like crazy good, right? So we'll talk about that a little bit later, but you definitely want to do everything in your control to sleep well. It is, again, where you can really have so much control over your hormones. Then one of our pillars is think well. Well, how does that affect our hormones? Well, it's a couple things. One thing I want to say to you is I want you to embrace this chapter of your life, right? It's a tough chapter, right? And just the world even right now, it's a little bit heavy still. There's a lot of negativity. So make choices that are going to put you in a more positive light. So unfollow people on Facebook that just bring you down. Maybe don't check the news 6 times a day. Maybe just check it, every second day, right? Follow people, choose to follow people on social media that are positive. Throw a podcast in that's like the happy podcast. Brendan Bouchard is one of my favorite for personal development. And it's just really about creating habits again that help us live our best life, right? So we want to think about, again, if we're thinking well, we're less stressed. And we talked about cortisol at the beginning and how that affects us. So cortisol really plays havoc with our body. Okay. So you want to talk to a friend or a therapist. Meditation is great, super hard. I recommend the Breathe app. Write that down, the Breathe app. Or if you know another one, drop that below. I would love to know. Try yoga, limit alcohol. It does interfere with sleep as well. Okay. Breathing. Most people can't breathe. Oh, we could do another whole class on that. If that interests you, put breathing, and I can do a breathing class one day because there are so many different techniques I've learned over the years in yoga and Pilates that can really help us just feel so much better. Okay. Big one, incorporate daily personal development work. I said Brendan Bouchard is a great guy. Oh, the Mindset Mile. Write that one down. The Mindset Mile, or just drop the words below, Mindset Mile, and I can directly send you the link. I love her stuff. The premise behind it is you go walk for a mile and listen to her podcast. Now, I actually chose to, when I was doing her podcast, I was putting my makeup on and listening to the podcast in the morning, but it just set my day up for success, right? And it allowed me to take this difficult period of time and make it a little bit easier. And then finally, consider incorporating brain health supplements. So coenzyme Q10 is good. I use one called Go. There's a supplement called Focus. If you want any of these supplements, like recommendations, I can send you the links for these. These are all things that are in my store. So I'd be happy to share them with you. And again, not everyone needs the exact same thing. So go fill out that Pillars of Wellness questionnaire in the featured pins within the group, and we can give you like a more specifics as to what you actually need. Now, other strategies to support our hormones, right? Well, we can look at some supplements. Let's talk about detoxing for a second. Now, remember in the beginning, I talked about endocrine disruptors. So what are you using in your house? Okay. Now, 6 years ago, I was the girl that would go to the grocery store and I would go to the sale aisle and buy whatever skincare was there. Now, can I also say that in my 20s and my 30s, I had horrible skin. Not all the time, but especially with my hormones, very cyclical with acne and stuff. But I was using crap, right? And then I was also just getting the cleaners at the grocery store that were full of the worst chemicals out there. And so 5.5 years ago, I changed all of that. Everything in my house now is clean label and safe. Abby hasn't had an eczema. What do you call it? Outbreak in that many years. It's crazy, right? I don't have dry skin so much anymore. Like my eyes aren't itchy. There's so many things. Okay. But most importantly, when you get rid of those chemicals and those toxins, you're going to get that hormone balance back. So if you want recommendations for that, just put the word green. That works. Green down below. I've got my favorite home collection. It's so inexpensive, ships right to your house, and you will be well on your way. Like I don't feel guilty when the kids clean the bathroom now because they can shut the door. Remember that old cleaner we used years ago would be like, open all the windows because it was so toxic to their lungs, right? And now we're using these great clean label products. They all have their turns clean in the bathroom, and I'm not worrying about what damage is being done to their bodies, okay? We're going to talk about gut health because that's important. It's really key. And then we're going to talk about acupuncture. That is amazing. So pre-COVID, I was actually going to an acupuncturist specifically to balance my perimenopause hormones, and it was unbelievable. She really kept me level. And then COVID hit, and of course, I couldn't see her anymore, and I was a mess. Thankfully, last year, my niece moved in with us, and she was studying to be a doctor of Chinese medicine, so I got free acupuncture. So definitely look into that. It's something that's very holistic and natural, and really, the name of the game, you guys, here with health is we don't need medicine. We need medicine when we're sick. But when we can take our body and put it into a natural healing state with things like massage, meditation, chiropractor, acupuncture, that helps our body naturally balance itself. It puts it into a healing state. And then when we get adequate sleep again is so huge because when we sleep, that is our rest and restore cycle. And when we are sleeping is when we get just completely rejuvenated. Okay. So I'm curious, put that in the comments. What are you doing? Are you doing acupuncture? Do you do chiropractor, osteopath? I love my osteopath. Now, if you need a recommendation, if you're in the Calgary area, ask, because again, because of the field I work in, I know pretty much every physiotherapist, every chiropractor in town. And I have some people that I absolutely adore that would take such good care of you. So I'd be happy to help you guys out with that. So let's talk for a second about gut health. Oh, I think I might even be on time here. I said an hour. I think we're on track. So gut health, what does our gut do? Well, it performs lots of important functions. And you've probably heard about this, but the big thing, there's so much research between the gut brain axis. Like they are connected, right? So much, right? Again, we move our spine, we move well, we stimulate the nourishment to our brain. We need to nourish our gut, okay? So what does the gut do? It says here it absorbs nutrients, it makes and regulates hormones and neurotransmitters. So right there, again, our gut plays a role in our hormone health, all right? It affects our estrogen levels, like so much, influences our mood, and it supports your immune system. Up to 70% of your immune system actually sits in your gut. And what's crazy is my husband, it just amazes me because I don't always know, like I may have a sore throat or I'll feel a little headachy, but every time he'll be like, oh, I'm going to be sick. I'll be like, why? He's like, my stomach's off. Every single time he'll get this feeling in his stomach, and he knows every time, whether it's going to be a respiratory infection, a stomach infection, whatever it's going to be, he can feel it in his gut. It blows my mind. Okay, so gut health. Now, the microbiome, okay? You guys might have heard me talk about this before. I get super fired up about this geeky stuff, but there are 100 trillion bacteria in your gut. Sounds gross, but they're both good and they're both bad. And all of that is called your gut microbiome. And they're essential. We need them to function through our body, okay? They are a really important part of our immune system, like I talked about. But this, okay, I just learned this when I was working with this doctor. This blew my mind. Within the microbiome, we have the estroblome, okay? This is a group of over 60 different bacteria that are really helpful in perimenopause and menopause because they're called your estroblome. Okay, what do they do? Get this. They break down toxic estrogen and activate helpful estrogen. Okay, so when these bacteria are thriving, your hormones will thrive. You guys, big asterisks on your paper: gut health, gut health, gut health, gut health, gut health. Okay, you need to address that. I keep saying all of these, but you really need to address gut health. Gut health affects, eat well. What did I say there, right? Now, your estroblome, I cannot pronounce this word well, but your estroblome produces a key enzyme, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that one, that you need to ensure that the small amounts of healthy estrogen you produce later in life are actually being activated into your cells. I had no idea. When she told me this, I'm like, what? Like, I did not realize that connection of the estroblome into perimenopause and menopause. So we got to heal our gut, you guys. We have to heal it. How do we do that? Take a probiotic. So I have two I take. One when I travel, it's a little pixie stick. The kids love it. You just rip off the top, pour it on your tongue, tastes like cucumber in my mind, and you just let it dissolve. The other one I use is a pre, post, and probiotic all in one. I noticed when I started taking that a few years ago, was that 2? I can't remember, 3 years ago, my skin got clearer. And I was like, what? I don't get it. Why is that making my skin clearer? Well, because it cleaned up my gut health. Now I was able to actually properly absorb nutrients. It was super cool. Okay, eat a balanced diet. Remember I talked about macronutrients? So you want to eat a protein, a fat, and a complex carbohydrate at every meal. And eat enough protein, you guys. Include fiber in your diet, right? We need to get stuff moving because if it's all sitting down in your intestines, there's toxins sitting in there. So we need to get stuff and get it pushed through and moved through. You want to fill those nutritional gaps with supplements. Here's also actually where collagen can help. It does play a role in gut health. And of course, you want to manage stress. Okay. So one more sip of this. I'm going to share with you something that happened just this past weekend. So there is a brand new, never before done, nowhere in the world does this exist until Friday of this past week. It is time for a more intuitive approach. Okay. So I want to talk to you guys a little bit about OVA and OVA M. Now, OVA M is a supplement that I'm taking. OVA is a supplement my daughter Ava is taking. She's 15, almost 16. We've been taking them. We're just into our second month. Now, if you look at this graphic, a woman's life in hormones, you can see that I'm on the bottom end of that, okay? Everything's starting to slide down as I head towards 50, right? But this supplement, OVA, is for menstruating women, okay? And it actually syncs to where you are in your cycle. And it's based on, again, these fluctuating levels of micronutrients in your body. It is just beyond genius, okay? Now, OVA M is designed for women that are in perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause, okay? And that's the one I'm taking. I do still get a period, but I had so many symptoms of perimenopause that that's the one I'm taking. And you guys, it is incredible, the results. So let me show you this really quick. So this is OVA. As I said, it comes in this really cool package and you sync it to your cycle. So a day 1 to 4 of your cycle, you're taking the top row, which is release, okay? And then the next day is, can I read that? Renew is day 5 to 16, which is the green stripe. Balance is the dark blue stripe, which is day 17 until the start of your next period. And they've also included extra tablets on this because every woman will have a slightly different length of cycle. But this does so much, okay? You can actually see the slide. It's going to relieve, help with moodiness, decrease blood flow, right? Decrease cramping, improve mood. And I can tell you, so my daughter Ava actually told her dad, I love that my kids are comfortable enough talking about it, but they're driving home from work and she's like, Dad, I think that supplement's really working. So she's had 2 periods with it now. And the first period started day 1 on this. The second period, she noticed there was less flow right in that first month. And then again, the second month, she's like, there was no cramps, Mom. She didn't have the tender breasts, during that ovulation time and leading up to her period. And I, as her mom, definitely noticed the mood. It's crazy. So I'm super excited to see how she progresses on that because we'd gone to the doctor. And of course, the doctor was like, well, we'll put her on the pill. And Ava was like, I don't want to go on the pill. I'm 15. I don't want to get fat. That's what she said. So again, if we can take and use a supplement, a natural supplement that's hormone-free, right? It's isoflavone-free, then we are empowering our hormones, okay? Now, here's the results of the focus study group. You guys can see this. 88% of people that used the OVA had reduced mild menstrual cramps, 84% reduced mild bloating, 72% improved energy levels, and 72% improved mood. Now, my phone is full of people that tried it and their testimonials, some of them my Pilates clients, and it just blows my mind, you guys. I'm going to show this from the rooftops because it is phenomenal. So Rani said, best period so far, hardly any cramps, less bloating, and much better mood and energy. Can you imagine if you didn't have to stay home and lay on the couch that, 1 or 2 days every month, how that can change your life, okay? Then we have OVA M. Now this is for perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause, okay? What are you going to expect on this? Reduce hot flashes, reduce vaginal dryness, support libido, support cognitive health, and support cardiovascular health. Super important as we age. Now, I'm on month 2. This may be way too much information. First month, reduce flow. Definitely saw it. But again, I started it right when my cycle came. So definitely reduce flow. Second month, definitely noticed the reduced flow, like even more. Immediately noticed I was sleeping better. Now, the first month I was sleeping better, but when I would wake up in the morning, like a full 8 or 9 hours, I was really hot when I woke up. And I'm like, hey, that's so hot. I don't like waking up hot. That's actually since dissipated. So now I'm getting my full 8 or 9 hours of sleep and I'm not waking up hot. What blows my mind is my mental clarity. Some of you have heard me say this, but like when you're doing online shopping and maybe some of you do have your credit card number memorized, but you look at your credit card and then you're going to go type it in. And that used to stress me out, like be shopping and I'd have to look 6 times and type it in. And now I can look at something and type it in. Or I'm, with a client, right? And they're like, here's my credit card number. I can just be like, they can tell me and I can type it in. I'm not having to write it down. I'm not having to go back. And that might seem silly, but that for me was the indication that, or even like when I use different apps, like I use this MailChimp app and it's like every time I log in, it sends me a I have to get this verification code. So I'm on my computer and then I have to, my phone beeps and I get this code. It's like 6 numbers. And before I used to have to put my phone over by the computer and like put one number in at a time. And now I look at it and then just come and type it. So for me, that's like huge. Not nearly as hot. What I've really noticed in month 2 is, yeah, like the waterworks is on. There's no more vaginal dryness. My husband is really happy. My libido is up. And sorry if that's too much information, but it's just, you know how it is. Well, I was, you know what? I was blaming it on being a mom. I'm like, I'm tired. I've got too much stuff going on. Oh, just go away from me. And there was one day I've been on it for about 3.5 weeks and my husband walked in the kitchen in his robe. Sorry if it's too much information. But you know, that feeling is like, ooh, there he is. And I was like, oh, what is that? Like, I literally was shocked because I'm like, oh, okay. So wouldn't it be kind of nice to maybe reignite some of that in your marriage, right? Cognitive health is huge. Like I said, just so much less brain fog. I am in love with this supplement. So if this interests you, just drop the word OVA below and I can get you the information, right? Each of the ingredient list or whatever, if you want to share that with your doctor, your naturopath. It is all 100% natural, so it's not going to be a problem. The focus study group results here again, 93% of people reported improved sleep and mood, 92% reduced hot flashes, and we're talking mild hot flashes, right? 93% increased energy levels and 82% improved cognition. Like, it's huge. Now, of course, with hormones, let's just talk for a second though, that there are people that have really, really, really extreme issues. And if that's you, like, you definitely need to talk to your doctor. And that's where there might be need to be more intervention taken, right? Okay. Now this one, you heard my results, but here's Amy's results. She said, better moods, increased libido, big time. So it's not just me, less night sweats, brain fog improving, and increased energy. So you guys, you got to try this. Who do you know that could benefit from this? Now, here's one more thing I want to share before we get into your action plan. And that is that they have taken the OVA M with this prebiotic, right, that I use, and put them together into the balanced body system. So what is that? Prebiotic is about gut health. So what did I say? We target gut health. Now we have this natural hormone support. It's actually designed, again, to support you way down at that cellular level and that micronutrient level. It is not, it's a supplement, like a nutritional supplement that's going to have this much power in your body, right? You can really take back control. So last thing, you guys, I'm at 1 hour and 1 minute, so I didn't go too bad. I wanted you to have your custom designed action plan. Thank you so much for being here and letting me share your passion with you, okay? So what are we going to do, okay? I want you to write down one, I might actually write down all of these. So write down the word eat well. What was the one key takeaway that you're like, okay, this is the improvement I'm going to make in that area right now, okay? So what can you do to eat well? What can you do to move well? So write that down. What can you do to sleep well? What can you do to think well? Do you need to make improvements to your gut health? What things could you add in that we talked about? Do you need to add supplements? Are there gaps, right? You think about, someone asked this once, like, well, why do you use supplements? And I'm like, the same reason I use soap when I shower, because I could just shower with water, but soap optimizes the experience, right? I smell a little bit better. Same thing with supplements. We don't need them, but why not optimize our health? Why not really age well and healthy? Okay. Track your symptoms, journal. This is so well known and so not done. Get a notebook. Journal every night. How did I feel today? What did I eat? Did I move my body? Journal around those pillars of wellness. And in fact, I'm working on that right now. I'm coming out with a journal around the pillars of wellness. So if that's something that would interest you, just write the word journal below. And when that's available, I will get that to you. Okay. Do you need hormone testing? Because again, I'm not talking, and I'm not a doctor. These things I'm telling you are just based on, general wellness. So you need to, if you're having really major symptoms, go and talk to your doctor, your naturopath, get that testing done. What other wellness professionals can help you, right? We weren't designed to do this alone. You're not supposed to go through life and try to fix everything. It's why we have all these amazing humans put on earth with their gifts. They're here to help you. So whether it's a chiropractor, an osteopath, a massage therapist, a Pilates teacher, whatever it might be, who could help you or who has helped you in the past that's made a difference. I want you to continue that, okay? And then I want you to check out if you're having any troubles around weight gain. I've had a few people reach out this week and they're like, I just can't lose weight. Okay. I want you to go to guide 11 within this group and check out the Kickstart Your Metabolism posts that are within there. And then lastly, would you benefit from working with a wellness coach? Okay. Because that is something I am now offering. I am a health and wellness coach. And in April, we'll be launching a 3-month coaching program called the Vibrant Woman Project. Okay. And this is a program designed for you to go through really at your own pace. It might take you a little bit longer than 3 months, where we look at each of these pillars in more detail. There's an education piece, but more importantly, there's the action setting, there's the goal setting. I'm become your accountability partner for that. So if that interests you, if you're like, yeah, I would like to work with a coach and have someone give me that step-by-step outline to what I need for my optimal health, write the word vibrant down below. Okay, you guys, thank you so much for being here. I went over by 5 minutes. That's actually magical because you know I like to chat. So thank you for being here. If you got value from this, please let me know, okay? I'm always trying to share with others what I hope will make you have a better life. And if this was valuable to you, who do you know that would get value from it? And I invite you to invite them into this group, tag them in this, or shoot me a message and I can reach out to them. I would be happy to connect. Okay, lastly, I want you to write in the comments the biggest takeaway. What was the one thing that you're like, that's the one absolute thing I'm going to take away from this? Because you are the secret sauce. It's nothing else. There's no information, there's no doctor, it's not me. You are the secret sauce to taking control, empowering your hormones, empowering your health, and living your absolute best life. Because my goal for you is that when you live your best life, you can shine. And when we shine, people come and they shine and we make the world a better place. Thank you guys so much for being here. So appreciate you. Take care.